So tips when creating your electronic press kit are keep it concise and organized where it's easy to follow, easy to find the things that the promoter or marketer are going to need. Showcase your likeness and your brand in a way that you truly want to be represented. When I look at an EPK or just any sort of marketing letter, it's typically very specific, and it's this band wants to be represented and referred to in this way. And it's so helpful to me because it allows me to spend less time researching and digging and trying to find information about you, whereas you already presented it all to me and I can just market your show for you because you provided me with everything I need. Include your most recent up-to-date music. You can always include your entire catalog and your entire discography, but typically you're going to want to be promoting your most recent release. So always include that kind of work and that music at the top. Be cautious of broken links in your EPK if it's a PDF format or if it's a document of some sort. And then be cautious of file sizes. You want things to be easy to download and easy to access. Like there are so many times where I try to download an image and it's too large and I can't use it for anything and it's very frustrating and I have to spend time resizing it. So everyone, for the most part, knows JPEG is web format, PNG is print. So those are just general standard big tips when you're going to create your EPK, and we can go into what specifically to include. So the most critical part of your EPK is, of course, your music. That's what you're promoting. That's how you make a living. So like I said earlier, link your top 3 songs at the top. So whether that's your 3 YouTube videos that have the most views or your 3 Spotify songs that have the most plays, those songs and those pieces of your work, you just want at the top because that's going to grab someone's attention more quickly. Link to all of your online streaming platforms. So if you have it and if your music lives there online, link to it. There are a lot of different ways that promoters promote, whether it's on Spotify or Bands in Town or SoundCloud or Songkick. Link to it all. It's better to have everything there than just one. Link to your YouTube page, your most recent music videos, or any live video content you have. State how you want your genre to be described and portrayed. That's something that's really nice. There's nothing worse than us doing a few social posts referring to a band as like post-rock and then the manager getting upset because the band's not post-rock. But we just interpreted their music to be that way. That's something we run into quite a bit. But if you just lay it out there and say, we're psych rock, we're this is how we'd like to be referred, that's really helpful. And then provide a comparative description of your music. You could say, Explosions in the Sky meets Mumford & Sons. We have a band coming up at Hi-Fi called City of the Sun, and that's literally how they describe themselves. That helps paint a clear picture. It helps people know what they're about to listen to, and it compares you to other more established artists that have an existing following that are more easily recognizable as well.
The thing is, the narrative is going to happen around your music, whether you control it or not. So you might as well control it. And a lot of folks like to say, we don't sound like anything. It's like, well, you do, and you should probably have like a high concept version of that. Like someone once wrote of ours, and we don't necessarily use it, but it was like as if the Beastie Boys met a band of time traveling Vikings, and it was something silly, but it made sense with what we were doing, and. So if you have that sort of like this meets that, and then it's just it one sentence gets in their head and really at least gives them some framework for your narrative.
And something like that is incredibly attention grabbing. Like if I read that, I would be like, what does that mean? I want to go check that out. So that's another really important part of being able to describe your music and just laying it all out there for the promoters and for the people that you're booking with. So you can grab the attention of fans, and so your work can be promoted in the way that you want it to be. To further expand describing your sound, so like I said, identifying with a genre, broad or specific, there are so many like niche subgenres anymore, and if you want to go that deep into it, that's great, that's fantastic. If you want to just keep it as standard as alternative rock or Americana, that's helpful too. Your music tells a story, so you can have a long form bio, a short form bio, and in either of those, the best way to describe your music is by telling a story of how your band came to be, what inspires you, why you create. Those are good ways to get people to listen. Like we said, providing a comparison to similar, more established artists and detailing your specific bodies of work and your catalog are really great ways to describe your music and also get people to listen.
If you do concept albums, talk about those, the concepts on those albums. If your albums reflect, or your songs, if it's a singles format, if they reflect a certain part of your life or experience you've had, talk about that a little bit too. Control your own narrative.
And more specifics of what to include in an electronic press kit. The top most important things outside of your music are an approved press photo. If you don't have a high-res, like JPEG image that can be shared online, then it's going to be really difficult to promote your show. The promoter is going to need it for their website listing, for the Facebook event, for social media posts. You need to provide them with at least one photo that is representative of your band as is currently, and that is of quality. I get a lot of really pixelated, unfortunate, crummy photos, and it's a struggle, and then I will just pull something better offline. An approved, recent, up-to-date bio is also really helpful. That helps the promoter learn more about you and then market the show to their audience and their fans. Your social media links, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of the above. Your exact social media handles so the venue can tag you. Creative assets are also key and really big. If you're on tour and you have specific tour creative that you want used, and if you have a specific tour ad mat, provide that to the venue and promoter and provide it in the raw format so they can go in and localize it and put their branding on it and their venue information and the show information on it in a quick, easy way. If you have any recent press links, so if you got a hit in Nuvo or a local alt weekly, or if you did an in-studio with WFYI, include those links in your press kit because that's content for the venue to share to make you seem more well-rounded and a little bit more experienced and like you are building an audience and that you're growing. Any relevant and important contacts are also great to list. At this scale, you may not have a manager or a publicist or an agent, but if you have someone that handles your social media, list them as a contact. If the drummer in the band handles all tour advancing and marketing needs, list them as that so the venue and promoter knows who to exactly go to for that specific thing that they're looking for. And then if your entire tour is already mapped out and booked, include all of the tour dates in your EPK just so the venue and promoter know, hey, they're hitting these cities. I want to avoid promoting in those cities so those cities can be successful on their own and so I can just be aware of where they're playing. I would say everything there is probably the most important things that you would want to include. And then to go just one step further, on the promoting and marketing side, I get this from more established tours that have tour marketers or management teams to help promote. But if you, like I said, provide the venue and promoter with the ad mat to localize and the art, give them the raw files. If you have an affinity list of similar artists to you, provide them with that for digital advertising and social media targeting. A lot of the times I will get a specific 20 artist list from a band, like target fans of these bands because we share the same fans. That's incredibly helpful and really great to include in EPK if you have that mapped out for yourself. Send the promoter content throughout the tour campaign and your specific show campaign with them. It just helps them have more to post to social media to promote your show. And then ask the promoter for a local press list. I would say 8 times out of 10, the venue or promoter has their own media list that they're willing to share with you. Hi-Fi and MOKB has one, and I share it with every tour that comes through. It's pretty obvious that you're not going to know all of the local media contacts in every single market that you go to, so ask the venue and promoter for those resources because they have them and they should be ready to share them with you.
That's part of the lead time as well. Press has its own lead time, so as you're booking this, and you ask for those contacts, you want to give the press almost as much lead time as you do the bookers.
And then another thing to help you go the extra mile, seek out local and public radio for call-ins, interviews, in studios. Good examples that I refer people to here in town are WFYI and WQRT. They're just solid local public radio stations that are open to supporting local and regional artists. And they don't always require an ad buy like some of the bigger stations.
Traveling. So that's the actual hatchback we traveled in. Low overhead. But we also traveled in this gold, they called it a splitter in the UK. That's what Electric Six tours with over there, but that's because they have 8 people in that van. And when we piggybacked with them on a couple dates, there were 10 people in that van. Pretty crazy. So there's etiquette to the road. We're trying to build here. It's very similar to local show etiquette, but even more important on the road. With Google Maps, such as it is, there's no real reason to not be punctual. Stick to your load in, your advance info. Most of the time we beat the. My wife is a very punctual person. She had to leave actually, probably because she's late getting our son to bed. So just goes to show. We beat the sound tech there most nights. We were very, very big sticklers, and it just lends that air of professionalism that you're going for anyway.
And I will say for the venue, that is probably the biggest thing.
Yeah.
For example, we have a show this evening. The band is only coming from Cincinnati, and they arrived an hour and a half after doors. Our poor production manager is just incredibly stressed and was upset but understanding. It's just a lot of pressure and unneeded stress and worry on the venue side when you are late for no real reason. Of course, things happen on the road. You break down, life happens, but if you can be punctual and just arrive on time for load-in, you're saving manpower, you're saving hours and resources and people's time. So.
And again, yeah, there are problems that arise on the road. If you can't be punctual, be communicative, but try to be punctual because venues will remember if you're not. Hopefully they'll remember if you are too, but they'll definitely remember if you're not. Try to stay for all bands and artists. Like, you don't know what networking you're missing out on. This is for local shows too. You get those show trades when you talk to the bands you've played with from out of town. That's how you get, if you were booked here and the bill made sense, it only makes sense to stick around and talk to those bands. Get your people to stick around, especially if you opened, and hopefully that touring band is going second. Make sure that the people that came for you stay for this band. Say, I heard they were really good, let's check them out. And then network with those people to get your first show trades, in Cincinnati, in St. Louis, in Chicago. And, you hosted them this time, make sure you're a good host. So try to stay for all bands and all artists for networking and just, to reflect your local music community well. Tip your bartenders on the road all the time, every single time. Sometimes your only shows are to the sound tech and the bartenders. So it can go a long way, and like I said, they remember. and they can be some of your biggest advocates afterward as well. Even if the beer is free, the bartenders are still there and still working. And you can really, it goes a little way if the show was a bust. It sucks for you. It also sucks for them because that's how they're getting their money. But if you played your show and played it well, you might have a new fan in that bartender. And if you don't stiff them, then you're going to have a new fan in the next time you come around. Again, touring bands without draws should never play last. I speak from experience. Be a good host. That's what I was saying. Network. Stick around. Be nice. If you're able to do it, try and be a resource for bands who need a place to stay, or know someone if you can't put them up. I'm not saying put them up, but do it yourself, or help them find a spot. Okay, again, low overhead equals more profit. Comes to the tour vehicle, comes to advocating for buyouts every night. If you can get your food covered, if you can keep your overhead low. That's more money you're making. Know when to play shows, know when not to play shows. Everyone needs recuperation. If you get a day off, Mondays and Tuesdays are great days to take off, sometimes Sundays too. If you're going south, make your days off on the beach in Florida. We did it all the time. It was amazing. Stay safe on the road. This is huge. Have a long-distance buddy system. Other friends you have in bands that tour, your family back home, check in often. Make sure you have several people in your hometown who know your tour route and where you're supposed to be. Keep emergency contacts on you. When you're in strange cities, stick together if possible. And look for resources in the venue. Hopefully they're not creeps. It's important. Also, as part of staying safe, get vaccinated. They work. We were going to play the Pacific Northwest for the first time and found out there was a pertussis outbreak, and I was like, well, I don't want to be the monkey in outbreak. I'm not patient zero. I'm not going to be a disease vector. Vaccinate me. So it happened. And we did not get the whooping cough. Thank you. Hospitality, don't drink your guarantee. Again, negotiate hospitality. If you can't, just be smart about it. Like, don't drink before the show. Wait till you rock people's faces off and let them buy you drinks. They will do this. It will happen. And that guarantee will get you to the next town. The importance of merch, again, I said 45% of our revenue at the peak was from merch. Do not tour without merch. It's weird. It does not make sense. Building a draw, that's, again, all of this is a native building a draw, turning a city into or a market, a town, into your anchor, an anchor point on a tour. If you treat the staff at the venue right, if you are responsible in promoting, if you hold up your end, it's going to go a long way. Goodwill. This entire industry is built on goodwill. And it will help you build a draw. Of course, you have to be good, but other than that, finding a place to stay. That's again, that can be tough. Know when to spring for a hotel, especially when it comes to safety. Motel 6. There's some other hacks we got. If you know Freddie Buns, a local rapper, he just found some crazy deal where he gets $35 a night rooms for writing Yelp reviews. So look for
Also, just ask the venue.
Yes.
Ask the people that work at the venue. Ask the promoter and the talent buyer. We always state clearly in our advances that we unfortunately don't offer discounts and we don't have any deals with local area hotels. But we do provide recommendations of safe places to stay. More often than not, in today's age, it's Airbnbs or it's people in town who have Airbnbs or Airbnb-like homes where they just house bands that come through.
There's a resource for that called bandstayfree.com, and it's like couch surfing. We actually know that we're friends with the people who run that out of Greenville, South Carolina. So there are situations like that, and it's one of those buddy system situations where people vouch for each other.
Yeah, me personally, as someone that works at a venue, other than myself, I know of 4 people off of the top of my head who I would recommend a band or a friend to stay with. So always asking the venue and promoter is the good first step.
Absolutely. The hotel room we sprung for, that's a Airstream trailer there at the Bottle Tree in Birmingham, Alabama. They actually have 2 Airstreams that they let bands stay in their backyard there. Kind of awesome at the venue. And that's a boat we stayed on. It was a botel. The toilet was in the shower. That was in Maastricht, Netherlands. It was awesome. Okay. Some terms we've talked about. Buyout, that's your hospitality. Guest list, sometimes, you'll get some freebies on the guest list. You ultimately want people to pay to see your show, so try to keep that low. That's part of overhead too. Sometimes you have to pay for the guest list. Sometimes it takes money out of the venue, so unless it's just be a crazy show with a huge draw, don't go crazy with the guest list. Draw, again, that was, how many people you bring to a show. A lot of that, Natalie mentioned a whole list for the tour. There's usually a courtesy blackout date. You don't want to book any shows in a certain radius within a couple weeks of a show, typically so as not to cut your draw. You want all of your shows to be good. Primary support, that's if you are opening for someone or if someone is opening for you. Guarantee versus Dorca, we talked about that. Backline, some places, some festivals have backlines. For example, Sam Ash is providing the backline for, was it Holler on the Hill?
Sam Ash is providing the backline for Battle of the Bands.
Battle of the Bands, yes.
And when we do have backline needs, Sam Ash is always our go-to. There are some tours that come through where it may be a fly day or the entire tour is backlined. They're our go-to. So that's just the venue providing the gear and you not touring with gear.
Usually drum sets and amps.
Yes.
Advance, that's the advance information, load in, sound check time, stuff like that. A tour manager versus manager. A tour manager specifically works for a band to book a tour, and that's who folks like Natalie actually probably deal a lot with, right?
Well, I'd say
that's the booking agent. Tour manager are the people actually on tour with you who are running merch or making sure the negotiation is. I was my own tour manager most of the time.
The settlement contact, they're handling the tour finances. A lot of the times on the smaller scale, so even the hi-fi level, the tour manager doubles as a merch seller or it's TM front of house just because it cuts down on costs for the band. You're paying one person to do 2 things instead of 2 people to do 2 things. And then the manager just manages the band day to day on a higher level. They're not with the band on every tour date.
I was my own manager and my own tour manager, so I don't know them that well. This is my wife's tips and tricks. Take copious notes. Document everything. Start a Google spreadsheet. Document everything. Don't try to remember the names. Write them down. One of the biggest revolutions in humanity was the invention of writing. It was amazing. The first bit of writing was a receipt, so you could remember how many goats you just bought. Do this with your touring. We impressed so many people by showing up to a town we hadn't been to in like 18 months, in, for example, Birmingham, Alabama. And, hey, Ashley, how you been? And they're like, how do you remember that? It's like, well, you made a really big impression on us, and we wrote it down. So you can write down the names of the people you meet on the road. You could take note of where you stayed. You could take note of how many people came to your show, and you can prove that draw. So you have the documentation for like, well, actually, the last time we were there, this is the draw. And then you want to keep this like you want to keep stats. You want to treat it like a business, whether you're doing it full time or not. And make friends and tip bartenders, of course. So this was an example of our spreadsheet. This is for the first European tour we did. We took notes of how many people attended, the people that we met there, who we who we opened for, how much we got paid, how much we made in merch, and et cetera, et cetera. So Super helpful.
I actually just had a call with a manager, and he was able to, as I had Ticketfly opened up, looking at what this band did the last 2 times they played our venue, the manager also had those stats pulled up because we were trying to figure out how to bump sales, what we could do to promote the show. And if you're not keeping note of that data, it makes returning to a market and going on tour again so much more difficult. The fact that that manager was like, yeah, we did 189 tickets last time, and the time before that we did 160, so let's at least get to 250 this time. You want to keep growing.
It's impressive, right, when someone can do that, right? Especially if you're doing your own management. Talked about tipping your bartender. Wear ear protection. If you're doing 131 shows a year, no excuse not to have good ear protection. It may feel less punk rock to you, but it's not. It's good. It's very good. Claim your income. Dude, for real. If you're demonstrating income from this industry, I'm not a tax professional, so I'm not giving anyone tax advice. But you get to write. I will say I have written off CDs I bought, songs I've downloaded, movies I've seen, video games I've bought, because it's all market research to stay competitive. If you are going for or audio placement, music placement in any other media, even if you don't succeed, that is part of this industry, and you get to write that off as research. Again, I have done this, but I'm not giving tax advice to anyone. Know when to fight for a better time slot guarantee and when to capitulate. You just have to figure this out. If you're, the whole when to play for exposure thing. I mean, that's a battle everyone has to fight. But if it's your first time in a market, maybe take a hit or a low guarantee or something. Build that goodwill. If it leaves a bad taste in your mouth, you never have to go back again. Just don't. But sometimes you just have to know when to pick your battles. Sometimes. Consider forming an LLC. I did. Helps.
Most bands do, I'd say.
Most bands do at some point. You can contact me. I do love it. I like to talk about it. It's because it says Andy D loves you. That's my tag and everything. And thank you to our partners, Sam Ash for hosting us, Arts Council of Indianapolis for recording this. This will be on their website. It'll be on our archive. And Giacomo Upper Crust Pizza for providing the food. My name's Andy D. This is Natalie Glidewell.